All right, well, our clock says 6:30, so we'd like to call the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for February 17th, 2026 to order. We have 4 members plus our alternate, so we have a full board tonight. First thing on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the January meeting. Does anybody have any suggested changes, modifications, additions, subtractions, anything? No? I would make a motion that we accept the minutes from the January 2026 meeting.
And I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Okay, what we'd like to do now is we want to go into an attorney-client discussion with our attorney. So could everybody, not the board, please step out in the hall, and we shouldn't be too long.
Attorney's off.
Yeah, we should. All right, we're completed our attorney-client discussion, and we're back on the record. And the only matter on tonight's agenda is a public hearing for a Yadgard area variance appeal filed by the Cornells through their attorney Alan Rapplier, who's present. Alan, you want to make a presentation for this?
Yes, thank you. May I sit here?
Sure you can.
Okay,
Whatever you want.
thanks. All right, very well. Move this back so I'm not on top of you guys. So I was here roughly a month ago, as I recall, and I want to just repeat from then. The reason we're here is not about the variances that were already granted. As you know, the board granted 3 variances. There was a 4th variance application for mechanical systems to be in the setback that was withdrawn. So all the variances were granted, and what prompted our return to the ZBA initially was a change in where the mechanicals were suddenly back within the setback. There was also a fence proposed right on the boundary. Thankfully, the board found that that should be lowered and also moved within the property. So the issues that remain are the mechanicals and where they're located, and the issue of screening. And if I might remind the board that when the application for the mechanicals to be in the setback was withdrawn, that was sort of a balancing factor for the neighbors, how the neighbor wasn't as impacted because the mechanicals were no longer close. Same for the vegetation and the promise of new plantings. I think the promises were repeated many times, and they weren't, I didn't think it was a bush or two. So that brings us back here, because what happened was there were changes to the plan, and the present plan, as I understand it, was attached to Mr. Romanowski's letter, which came in. I didn't see it until Thursday, but it came in last week. And as I was preparing for the hearing tonight, I thought, just when you think you understand a code, sometimes you don't. So I went back to the definitions, and I want to pass this around to the board. I made copies.
Okay.
Here, I'll just pass it, Frank, and then you can distribute if you don't mind. So there should be an extra there, too. Did you get a copy, Will? No, I didn't bring an extra, but I'll give you mine when we're done. I just put on here 3 definitions because the issue of this shed and these mechanicals have sort of plagued me mentally for a week or so, just thinking through about it. And so I went back and I looked up the thought of how is a structure defined. And that's the first definition here. Any building or thing basically placed on the ground. I don't know what's in this shed now, but it's not these mechanicals which will be placed on the ground, or they will be placed on a pad that will be on the ground. Those things are not there now. So these are structures. They will be placed, or they're proposed to be placed within something. So the question becomes, if they're structures, how are they exempt from variances or building permits? Now, the next definition I think is relevant is storage shed, and the definition itself is storage. I didn't look up in the dictionary the definition of storage, but the way I've always seen it is, if someone rents a storage unit or they rent their garage, I think the common definition of storage shed would be it's where you put your lawnmower, or you put your hose, or your rakes, or things like that. And I think it was Ms. Rowland who brought up, she pointed out, or maybe it was Mr. Barnett, the definition, which prior to the last meeting I had not looked at rather. But when you look at that, it says it's an accessory structure to residential building, and then it goes on to the end, it says of residences. Now, equipment, machinery, is that what's being proposed here? What I would suggest to you is no, because first of all, the definition doesn't include pools, and equipment would be a backpack blower, something that I put in and I take out. Machinery might be my chainsaw. I mean, I'm kind of describing my shed here. I have a generator. I have all the things you move in and out of a shed. It's probably 12 by 12. This definition does not embrace putting in electric, putting in water, putting in propane lines, and I don't know where the propane tank's going to be. I asked Jonathan when I was up here one day and said, do you know where the tank's going to be? And he said, well, it has to be in the ground. I said, I know that, but do we know exactly where? So far, and I'd love to discuss it because there are certainly different viewpoints, but I can't get around that this is a structure, and it's new, and it's being put in this building calling itself a shed. It's a shed right now. It won't be a shed once all those adaptations are made to it, including cutting out a hole for a stack for venting, because you have to vent gas. You have to vent the exhaust. Jonathan, in one of his determinations, he indicated that, well, there's exemptions from building permits, and he's right, there's several. That doesn't mean they're exempt from variances, though. But even if it's exempt from a building permit, it talks about construction or installation of a one-story detached structures associated with 1 and 2 family dwellings, and there's limitations on the size, of course. But then I thought, okay, well, this equipment is a structure too. So is this allowed? Is this allowed? Well, as you continue the definition, it doesn't talk about having mechanicals outside. And if it did, then why was there any variance application in the first place? Because the stuff that's on the ground inside the shed, a variance was requested for it. It was withdrawn correctly because the board was encouraging, and we were happy to see a balance being struck. So, and I tried to think of some examples so wood burning furnaces. Dave Fountain used to have one. It reminds me of that. Now, if Dave has a shed and he's on a boundary, his shed wasn't on the boundary, and he put the wood burning furnace in there and he put the stack in and he went out and fed it every day, that's really not different than what's being proposed here. Now, would that be appropriate? Would that be, would sending that smoke that close to your neighbor's garage in their house, would that be appropriate? I would submit to you it wouldn't be. Nor would it be allowed, because it is a structure, even though it's inside a shed, and there's no exemption exempting it from a variance, and I don't believe the building permit exemption applies either. When I wrote this was this tonight, I was thinking of this evening. I wrote a letter to the board. It took me a while to finish it. Before going over it, I want to just you to look at the attachments. because that's, picture's worth 1,000 words. That might be more helpful than anything.
This is your February 17th?
Yes, Frank. The first thing I looked up, I Googled, venting and stuff like that, and I found this article on the dangers of pool heaters and fire, carbon monoxide, and gas leaks. Okay. I didn't look for the worst article I could find. I just put those words in, and this is what came up. Now, all of those dangers exist with respect to pool heaters, particularly when they're put inside a building. What's being proposed here is to put all of those dangers 20 feet from the Cornell's garage. And what's not being proposed, which hasn't frankly ever made sense to me, is the shed can be moved inside the property, even to the edge of the pool, and shelter the equipment right there. You're going to see a shed, but it's going to be within a setback. I'm sorry, it'll be outside a setback. And if the person who wants these things wants the risk of that, I don't know if they do or don't, but shouldn't it be near them and not their neighbor's home? The second thing, and please spend some time looking it up. I didn't do this to try to find the worst article I could find. It came up immediately. The second thing is, and this is part of this picture here, this is part of Mr. Romanowski's letter. So this is the new screening plan. It looks to be 6 bushes. And they're not, we don't know the height, we don't know the size. That's the only thing that's new. There is nothing on this corner which is depicted in this photograph. So if you're standing at the Cornells, this is what you're seeing. Now Jonathan said to me, I think he said in an email, he said, Alan, that's just construction fencing. They're gonna take it down when they're done, and I understand that. But that's essentially gonna be the pool and the pool fence. That's what the Cornells will look at. That isn't screened. It's wide open. The next attachment is, I wish that Jim and Lee had told me this a while ago, and I don't know why they didn't, but this is a picture that Mr. Romanowski sent, and he said, look how well it's screened. I don't think he knew either that the Cornells paid for all the screening. Here's the paid invoice, because when this was first proposed, this evergreen here, I spoke to Jim about it this week. He said, Alan, we planted all that. I said, wow. He said, yeah, we planted it on our side, and it cost us about $28,000. This bill doesn't, this was for some other stuff too. And I said, well, can you send me the invoice, please? He said, yes. So I don't know that Mr. Romanowski, when he sent this to you, had said it's totally screened, understood. I didn't understand it, that was planted by the Cornells. And they planted it because they were doing what they could do to try to screen off what they'd have to see. Now, what I'm suggesting is, look, this stuff is expensive. I don't have any debate about that, or I don't think there's any debate about that. But when it's not wrong to condition a variance on real plantings. And we're asking that the board come up with a screening plan, particularly, I think this side is covered because of the Cornells. What's not covered is here, or here, on this screening plan. These 6 little bushes, I don't know how big they are, or what they're really going to amount to, but again, when the variances were granted, it was conditioned on mitigation, the mitigation of the visibility, and there was no variance for the equipment. And so all that's happened since we were last here, and I dare say we wouldn't, I know we've gotten to know each other very well, but we probably all have better things to do some nights. We're back here because the Cornells did not change a thing. The variances were granted, and everything that's happened since then has been a change that Mr. Yadgard made. And the Cornells, as you can see from here, have spent significant money screening off the way they can screen off. I suppose they can spend another $30,000 screening more, but shouldn't the applicant have to do something? Especially when that was promised over and over and over to the board. Now, for the letter itself, I think I've pretty much covered it all, but, and I attached all these things to the letter, and essentially, what I was hoping to see the board consider is, this is an appeal from determinations that Jonathan made. I don't completely understand them, but one was, no variance is needed. I did not understand Jonathan's reasoning for that. And I think, unless these are not structures, which I don't know how they aren't, they need a variance, because they're new. And secondly, unless this is really storage, then they're not exempt from a building permit. And I think the significance of the building permit is, when a building permit application is made, you have to write down what you're gonna do, you have to show where it's gonna be, and that way, when the building inspector inspects, he ensures that you do it that way. I mean, especially here, where there's been years of discord, we'll call it, the lack of precision, I think Jonathan's letter says, as long as they don't put anything within 4 inches of the walls, how does he know that this stuff's even gonna fit? How does he know where it's gonna be cut? How does he know where the venting's gonna go? And, again, it's easy to poo-poo it as, well, they're just putting some stuff in a shed. That's not really what they're doing. They're gonna excavate to put in a water line. They're gonna excavate to put in a power line. They're gonna excavate to bury a propane tank and to run a gas line. The gas, any of us know about propane. If there's a gas leak, the most impacted party is the Cornells. Their house is within 50 feet, their garage is within 20. If there's a fire, the most impacted people are the Cornells. All of this stuff could easily be moved into the property where there's plenty of room, and also away from everyone's house or structure, so there's not as much danger. And frankly, to this day, I don't understand why he wouldn't just do it, and we wouldn't be here. And I hope the board carefully reads this stuff and reads it from everyone, but even this, I hadn't thought about it till I got here about a half hour ago. I said, this is tough, put stuff in a structure. Well, wait a minute, these are structures. He's putting them on the ground. That's why he knew he needed a variance in the first place. He didn't moot that by sticking it in a shed. So thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Rappleyea.
You're welcome.
One of the first things I wanted to address with you is, last meeting, we had requested that your client pay escrow of $1,500.
Yeah.
And our attorney has brought to our attention that you're disagreeing with that requirement. And I think, as far as I'm concerned, the rest of the board members can say what they want. I'm not sure if you're right or wrong.
I'm not sure if I'm right or wrong either.
Yeah. So rather, I wouldn't agree or disagree with your position. I would just take the position for this appeal that we would waive the escrow. We wouldn't pursue it. I don't know how everybody else feels, but that's...
I'm in agreement with that.
I agree.
It seems fair.
And thank you, and understand why. I read the code. I was sitting here when it was brought up. I understood it. When I left the meeting, I thought, well, I gotta see what the code says. I read the code. I shared it with Mr. Barnett, and I appreciate the board's consideration.
Yeah, I read the code also. I could see...
It's
where
debatable.
There's
I don't-
little ambiguity. That's something the town board can take up at a later date.
They will need to.
Yeah.
And, all right, then I would make a motion that we neither agree or disagree with Mr. Rappelier's position, but in this particular instance, we won't pursue or request an escrow from the applicant. Anybody want to second that?
I second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay. Since this is a public hearing, I would make a motion that we open the public hearing to see if anybody wants to speak for or against the application. And there is.
Will, you want to switch?
Second, I'll second.
All in favor of opening the public hearing?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Do you have a copy of that
Yeah, well, you can take
letter?
this. A letter or this?
There was a
Here.
February 17th letter
Yeah.
with attachments.
Oh.
Thank you. Wonderful, thank you very much.
I may have an extra copy I can give you.
If you do, that's good.
Mine's a black and white. You got a black and white version? I got a black and white version.
All right. That'll work.
Sorry, I just hadn't had a
I know
chance
you haven't had
to
a chance to see it.
look at this, yeah. So thank you, William Demarest from Rep. Falsgraf here on behalf of the Yadgards. Daniel Yadgard apologizes for not being able to be in attendance this evening. He lost his father unexpectedly about a month ago.
that's too bad.
He's dealing with family issues, so
Our condolences.
so apologize for him not being able to be here. Since the last time we were here, Mr. Yadgard has been trying to work with the zoning administrator to determine what was needed and required for both the plantings and screening, what would be needed for that, trying to update that, discussing that with him, and that's what I believe led to the determinations, as well as discussing and getting the opinion on the placement of the pool equipment within the existing non-conforming shed.
Right. We did receive a letter from your office dated February 11th, 2026,
Yes.
and an attachment regarding a landscaping plan history and current proposal. So we'll make that a part of the record. Also, we're accepting Mr. Rablier's appeal letter dated December 15th, 2026, and his follow-up letter dated February 17th, 2026, so will be part of the record. Sorry to interrupt, go ahead.
Nope, no, that's fine.
I know you haven't had a chance to look at that
Yep.
yet, but
So I'll start with the pool equipment in the shed, if that works for the board.
sure.
During the last meeting and a little bit this evening, there's been a characterization of this almost like it was a bait and switch by the Yadgards in relation to obtaining the variances and then putting the equipment in the shed. I said it, I think the last time I was here, it's in our letters. The record demonstrates the idea, the discussion of putting the equipment in the shed was referenced during the October 2024 public hearing on this. So it was being discussed at that time. Now, it may be that the board maybe had a slightly different understanding or didn't fully, I don't know about that, but this was not something that Mr. Yadgard obtained the variances and then all of a sudden said, hey, I'll shove this in the shed. That was proposed, it was discussed. My understanding is that was actually a discussion that may have come from someone at the town suggesting that as an alternative to the need for the variance, and so that's what was done. It was our understanding that that did not require a variance. The building inspector has now confirmed that. The appeal letter raises section 165-84C regarding non-conforming uses. That's just not applicable here. That deals with non-conforming uses. This is an existing non-conforming structure. The provision that's relevant would be section 165-84G, which clearly limits the expansion, enlargement, and structural changes to a existing non-conforming structure, and that's not proposed here. Mr. Yadgard has spoken with his contractor to install the equipment into the shed and has confirmed that it can be done without requiring changes to the shed. That's why it's proposed in that way. That information was conveyed to the zoning administrator.
The only question I had was if there has to be any venting, does he have to cut holes in the roof or the side wall for venting, do you know?
I believe there is a small amount of venting that needs to be done for that, and I think that is referenced in the December letter by the zoning administrator acknowledging that some venting would have to be installed, but it is fairly minimal. It's not structural alterations to the structure itself.
Okay.
And because of that, it doesn't arise to the level of needing even a building permit for that. So that's why he didn't feel that this falls under the provision related to the structural alterations of existing non-conforming structures. The definitions that were discussed, I think, the discussion of a shed was raised at the last meeting. The code clearly defines a shed as a structure accessory to residential building used for storage of household items, equipment, machinery. Even Mr. Rapplier's appeal letter refers to this as pool equipment. That's what it is. And the question of whether or not a pool is accessory to a residential building was argued. This board determined it is accessory, and that was upheld by the court, that a pool, its equipment, they're accessory to the residential building, the single-family home. So again, this is equipment that is associated and accessory to a residential building. And so that meets the definition of a storage facility. I note that the definition, there's also a definition for storage open, I believe it is, which defined storage. The key term that jumped out to me there is keeping. So, and the whole point of storage is you're keeping something. If it's inside a shed, you're keeping it in the shed. If it's outside in the open, you're keeping it in the open. Whether that's long-term, you're doing that. Whether that's short-term, it's still storage. And so this is being stored in that shed. The issue raised regarding there'd have to be certain excavation for what amount to utilities. That is, I think I raised last time, that's exempt from the setback requirements. Those types of utilities are typically run through setbacks without a problem. So we believe that the zoning administrator's determination that the placement of the pool equipment inside of an existing non-conforming structure is permissible and doesn't require any area variances or even building permits for that. In terms of the landscaping plan, the ZBA, your resolution in September said it was being referred back to the building inspector to work with Mr. Yadgard to move the fence, 6-foot fence, on the other side of his plan of landscaping, and can do 4-foot post and rail like suggested, which would satisfy the Cornells and satisfy the resolution. Mr. Ialongo's November 5th, 2025 letter states the agreed screening, fencing that is part of the resolution would be inspected for compliance with the agreed upon approval. This was all discussed with Mr. Ialongo and discussed how to lay this out. I find the assertion about all of the screening that's existing being planted on the Cornell side rather interesting, because the last time we were here, a different image was presented, which was a mock-up of the opaque fence, the white fence. And that clearly showed it being completely on the Cornell side of the existing trees, and being asserted that how terrible this will be, that the Cornells have to look at this and all of the screenings on the other side. And now we're being told that in fact all of this landscaping is on the Cornell side of the property line. So I find that inconsistency to be a little concerning here. But the point, the Yadgards have agreed to move the fence away from the property line. Now, under the code, if this wasn't associated with a pool, and if the Yadgards had anticipated the amount of opposition they would have gotten from the Cornells, maybe they would have been better off going and putting up an 6-foot fence, opaque fence right there on the property line. Wouldn't have required a permit, wouldn't have required a variance. They could have done it. They didn't. So here we are, and that's kind of unfortunate. But the Yadgards have tried to work with the board, with Mr. Ialongo the whole way through, moved the proposed fence, as was discussed at the last meeting, inside the property line. It's the 4-foot post and rail We also, as shown on these diagrams, have shown putting the plantings on the other side of the fence, which was what was discussed at the last board meeting. I don't recall there being any discussion it looks like this is from the front corner, and I'm not sure if it's showing the screening. There was no discussion back then, at that time, of screening from this portion of the fence. I don't recall that being discussed. But from here, what's shown on here, and I think it's a light green on the diagram, that is also new planting that's proposed. So there is screening. Now, it might not be on the Cornell side of the fence there, but there is screening that would block from that angle as well.
This appears to me, this is a new plan that we haven't seen before, isn't it? They've developed this plan since the last time they talked to the building inspector? This has, in other words, this has more screening than I remember seeing in the past.
It's not, so it's new since September, based on what the board had raised in September. At the September ZBA, the resolution said, move the fence off the boundary line and put screening, put new plants between the fence and the property line. Because the prior one showed a fence along the boundary line and showed some plantings inside the yard. Mr. Rapplier objected to that, felt all of the plantings should be on the other side of the fence, and that's what's been done. It's been moved to the outside. Now, in terms of the placement of the plantings, the discussion has been they will be placed, they're going to be purchased from a local Poughkeepsie nursery and be placed where the foliage is thin. But I think some of the images that have been presented so far demonstrate that from the house, from the Cornell's house, this foliage is very thick. It blocks most of the view. And so this doesn't need a huge amount of additional screening. It'll be placed there to block any thin sections that exist. And so that's what's proposed, that's what was discussed with Mr. Ialongo, and that's what he notes in his submission, in his letter, will be required for compliance with the board's resolution. And so we think we have complied with what this board told us to do in September, move the fence in, put plantings between the fence and the property boundary line.
So if I understand you correctly, this is a copy of what you guys have submitted. There's going to be additional plantings put right here.
I believe it's up this area right
Yeah, it
here.
is.
Oh, okay.
Yep. In this area generally, and then maybe a little bit further down in there.
Looks like it's, yeah, in here. Okay. And this is existing bush already.
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
All right. Okay. I got you. All right.
So just, can you ask a question?
Oh, yeah.
So what on here is existing and what on here is new?
This is just to show that there is an existing line.
Okay.
The new would be these in here, and then these also here are proposed to be additional as well.
Okay.
I think from this image, I don't know when this image was taken. I know that there have been some changes, like in a couple of the pictures we submitted because they were pulled from security camera for use. There's a picture that shows like an ornamental tree, and it's not there in another picture. I honestly don't know whether that was added or whether that died and was removed. So I don't know at the moment what's the status of these bushes. But you know, this break between the bushes on the plan is shown closed
Here,
in.
right?
Yeah.
Because what I'm trying to do is understand where is this in relation to this?
Yeah, I don't know this where that visual is coming from. If that's
That's from the
this.
Cornell side,
This is from the Cornells.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
looking.
Yeah,
Here,
it's just-
looking,
Because I do know.
yeah, sure,
It's right here, Andy.
sorry.
You're standing about here.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So that's the house? Okay.
And
This
is that-
the house, right? Okay.
The pool would be to the left of it.
And,
Yeah,
and where on,
okay,
is
now I got
that,
it.
where on the Cornell's property is
So
that?
so they're gonna screen
As you
here.
come,
That
off the
from,
driveway somewhere.
they're saying
I can't
is they're
tell you
Okay.
exactly
here.
where,
But it-
definitely
it's-
on their driveway.
but it's not from the house.
You're not inside the house when you
No,
take
Okay.
not if
that's
you,
for sure. Your
that's
driveway-
over
They
the
put
house.
this in.
You're
Right.
basically in their
That
driveway
gets-
coming up to it.
And
'Cause-
then this screens anything from there. Okay.
the only other thing I would add about that is section 165-61C says if a pool will be visible from a neighbor's residence
Or a public road.
or from a public road,
You can
right?
see it from a
But,
public road too.
well, it's placed behind the house, so I don't know how visible that's
Your
gonna be
tiny
from.
lots will.
So what's
But-
the rest of what's the rest of what you're gonna read?
So just in terms of it's visible from the neighbor's residence, I think the clear intent of that code section is to address the visual impact from the house, from there. Picking a spot on the driveway that happens to have the one good angle, I think is a little, most of this is very heavily treed, as you can see. That one angle would still be blocked largely by the house and then by the bushes that are proposed there.
Do you know what kind of bushes
The
they are?
new, yeah.
I don't know. The plan was to go up to the nursery, see what's in stock, what is natural in this area, what's similar to there, and pick approximate sizes that are sufficient to screen the view.
Okay.
So, in terms of that, the approval, we think there's no abuse of discretion by Mr. Alongo, no error in his determination either on the landscaping that'll, as he says, require inspection to confirm compliance with this board's resolution in September, and that the shed is an appropriate and location for the placement of the pool equipment. If there are no other questions, or
I have two questions. One, how feasible is it to move the shed? And what is the foundation of the shed? And is it going to be changed? So I guess that was three questions.
I don't know what the foundation of the shed is. I apologize. I thought that was addressed in September, and I
think
just don't
asked
remember.
the question, but nobody ever answered me. But it
I'm not
seems
sure
to-
the answer either. I'm not sure.
Yeah, yeah. It seems to. Yeah, I'm more concerned with the use part of it. I mean, it's like if I put myself in somebody's shoes, my neighbor has a shed and starts like a brewery in it, and all of a sudden I'm smelling hop fumes all day long. That's not a shed. It might be a storage shed, but you're all of a sudden using it for something different. That's kind of where I'm caught up. But maybe, but if it's just on wooden planks, can you drag it 30 feet into your lawn? Is that a feasible thing to do? It may not. I don't mean to insinuate one way or the other. I just want to ask.
I honestly don't know the feasibility of moving it, but I would say that a brewery obviously wouldn't be
I mean, like a home
an
brewery.
accessory use
just
to a residential, like if it's a commercial
No,
brewery, whereas the pool is an accessory use to a residential facility. The equipment
Yeah, but
is
well-
associated with that.
I kind of disagree with you on what the court said there, but that's fine. I think there's a division, but that's fine between the use and the non-conforming structure. But I just wonder if it's feasible. I guess that was my only question. But
Okay.
And what is this piece here? That's new?
No, I think there's actually two sheds there.
Yeah.
Oh, there are two
And I
sheds.
think,
Okay.
I think that's the one where the equipment's gonna be placed, and that's a separate existing shed. That's my understanding.
Ah,
for other equipment,
Yeah, like, you know, pool.
like a leaf blower.
Okay, yeah.
Anybody else
I
have
don't
any
have any more
questions?
questions.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything to say? You have something else?
Please,
Come on
thank
up.
you. Thanks. Be briefer this time. If I felt the equipment was a bait and switch, I would have said that. So I don't appreciate it being suggested I said that, because I didn't. I think it's probably correct that Mr. Ialongo may have said, put it in the shed. I don't know. But what I can tell you is, and I think maybe Dave, Frank, and Katie, you guys are probably the longest serving ones. We've had a lot of hearings and meetings on this topic, and at no point in time do I ever recall the equipment being talked about in the shed at all. There's a reference, a very brief reference in something where Mr. Mackey said, so that would have been 2023, where, well, maybe we'll put it in the shed. That's what Mr. Demarest was referring to. Mr. Demarest is relatively new to this. He was not here for any of those meetings or hearings. But the chairman was. And the chairman said in the hearing on, I don't remember what date it was, March of 2025, the applicant was looking, and this is Frank's, and I already submitted this to the board, the applicant was looking for a variance for the side yard for the pool equipment. And in order to mitigate what he was looking for, he withdrew that variance request. Right, Frank goes on. There's no discussion about the clear message from that, and it was accurate, was he was trying to mitigate the concerns of the neighbors. At no point in time past 2023, at the latest, was this equipment talked about being in the shed. So, with all due respect to Mr. Demarest, if I felt it was a bait and switch, I would have said it myself. It was a problem, and I think that Mr. Yadgard is trying to come up with a solution for it. We just don't we don't agree about the solution. But at no point in time was that with any substance discussed with the zoning board, because it would have come up then rather than now. The notion that pulling electric, wiring, pipes, propane, venting is not an alteration, I won't say anything more about that. It's clearly an alteration of the building. And the question and answer about the venting was interesting. The venting, guys, is part of your materials because it was submitted by Mr. Yadgard long ago about what equipment he was building, or he was putting in, and I gave the board copies of this. It shows the exhaust, it shows the size of the venting, it shows that he has to cut holes in the shed. Those are all alterations. He's going to have to cut holes in numerous areas to put in electric, to put in propane. He's going to have to put switches in. And to Tate's point is, this isn't your well, I don't know if it was Tate's point, but this isn't a shed for your yard stuff. It's just not. And I think most importantly, at no point in time has there ever been a suggestion for why you just can't move the stuff. And the idea that, well, they're just trying to be reasonable. I gotta respectfully disagree with that. There was no debate at all by council that there aren't hazards associated with this. Why would someone insist on keeping them so close to the neighbor? Just move them. And that moots the whole point. And Mr. Demarest also said something else, that he was a little concerned about what I said about the fence. What I said about the 6-foot fence was, number one, I was wrong about its color, which I immediately admitted. The concern about the fence being 6 foot, and it was threatened again tonight. Well, we'll just put up a 6-foot fence in your face. That's childish, frankly. The problem was they were going to cut all the vegetation out. That was the problem. And then looking at this fence, and thankfully, I appreciate the board's consideration of that. They didn't, you guys said, come on, this is your neighbor, move it within the property, make it smaller. Shouldn't have had to be told to do that. Thank you.
Anybody else? You want to add something?
Just very
No.
briefly,
Yeah, sure.
just respond to a couple things. The utilities, placement, electric, water, gas, all of that as an alteration, the relevant language of the code is an alteration that increases the nonconformity. That's the key there. So it's not just anything being done to a nonconforming structure. It's something that increases the nonconformity. Running a hole for venting is not increasing the nonconformity. And I was not threatening to build a fence directly on the property line. What was proposed previously was intended to be put behind the existing foliage, not with the intent to remove the foliage. I tried to explain that the last time. We're not threatening to do that. We've changed it to the 4-foot post and rail fence based on the concerns that were raised about the full size. The point was to emphasize that the key here is whether or not it's visible, and had the fence been there, wouldn't have been an issue. We're trying to address that as best we can, and that's what we're attempting to do here with these proposals, and it wasn't a threat of any kind, so I just wanted to clarify that.
What, not to get into too nitty gritty, but what is this, like a 1 or 2 inch vent line?
I don't know the specifics of.
I assume it goes out, does it go out the roof? Maybe you don't know.
He
that
doesn't
either.
know.
I don't.
Okay.
I don't
Sorry.
recall. I
I
know
mean,
that
if
there
it's
was.
carbon
Yeah,
monoxide.
any of that stuff he does.
Probably goes up top. Okay.
No, I know that there was a discussion with Mr. Iolongo regarding
Yeah, that's his.
those
his
types of
bailiwick.
issues. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Anybody? The only issue in my mind, and I don't know if we want to keep the public hearing open for this, is we've got a new landscaping plan that was submitted by Yadgard. And he shows some new bushes and tree, it looks like arborvitae that are going to be planted. I would like to know exactly what they're going to plant and what, how big those bushes or trees grow. It's just some type of specific proposal from Yadgard to supplement the new landscaping plan that we have. I don't know how everybody else feels, but, one of the big issues for this appeal is the landscaping. And we have to make a determination as to whether this seems reasonable to us. And
We can't.
knowing what is going to be what new plantings are going to be would affect my judgment.
Yeah,
I think.
it would be helpful to know, because, some plants you plant 10 feet apart and then they grow together in a
Right.
screen, or
Yeah.
some things go straight up.
Yeah,
I
I don't know.
I'm no
That-
arborist.
Well, we can't
That was
give
my
him-
thought on it. But if we ask
But
for
the new
that
pla- the new
information from
plan's
the
good.
applicant, we'd have to keep the public hearing open so we can accept that new material. I don't know how everybody feels about this, or whether you're satisfied with what we've got now. I don't know. That's just my personal opinion.
Well, we should also, no, I think it would be good to supplement it, especially the 3 on the corner.
Yeah, those
Or whether
light
it's
green.
three or.
That were
or
just
what the
added.
number is.
February 11th? These
Right.
are new.
Because that will affect
What he sees from the
the
corner.
Cornell's view that something should be planted on the corner, but if those new plantings do the same thing,
Yeah.
that's going to affect our judgment.
I also am having trouble relating this plan to, I just, where is the Cornell's house? And
Like
what,
here.
yeah, I know, it's like,
Yep.
right, it's right here.
That's, their garage is
And-
right here, and then their house is over one.
So
Yeah.
right, and what is the distance of the shed to the garage or the house? Like, I'm trying
It's
to,
very close to the garage, very close.
I think that
I
the garage
can't,
isn't too far off the property line, if I
The garage is
recall.
right on
the
top.
garage is on the property line and the shed is on the property line, but what
Right,
is
but
the
the house is on the other
distance?
side of the garage.
Yeah, right.
That's true.
So I'm just trying to understand, because I can't see the shed.
I don't think they show up on parcel access. Do either of them any?
I'm on Google Maps, which should at least,
Yeah,
you
they're not all
know,
that reliable.
DC parcels where
And the parcel access lines can be
Okay, I
off,
can,
too.
I
I
can
don't
look
think
at
they're
that
on
too.
parcel
but-
access. I mean, maybe they could be. I haven't
No,
looked.
sometimes they are. Right. And I guess I can do a measurement from that.
May I just look and see what you're looking at about the planting plan?
Oh, here. So
So
these
these are
are
the three,
new
okay.
and these are new. So the idea here is, and that's what I was trying to do, is draw a line
Oh, I
from
see.
from the
Okay.
corner
Yeah,
of
yeah,
the
yeah.
site, which does go through,
I know what you're saying. yeah.
the pool and, nicely screens that even for the Cornells. I mean, that's my opinion on that, but, because you get the view through here still.
I see what you're saying, and I don't know enough about it to say.
It's right there, those two.
Yeah.
See?
Ah, got it, okay.
Um,
Let me just see this.
Yeah.
Now, you for the first time saw Mr. Rappier's February 17th letter. Are you going to want to make a response to that? You haven't had a chance to review it, that's why I'm asking.
I haven't gotten a chance to review it.
It's possible.
It would be our preference for the board to, resolve this evening, I guess, to a certain extent. But if the board does end up holding it open, we may want to address it. But I haven't reviewed what's in it, so I can't say that for sure.
Well, I've got my own thoughts about the shed. I was looking at the definition of shed under the code, 165-140.
Thanks, Alan.
It says a structure which is necessary to a residential building, which is this, a house, and which is used for the storage of household items, equipment, machinery, and similar personal property customarily used by homeowners in connection with the use, operation, and maintenance of the residences. It seems to me that having a pool on your property is in connection with the use, operation, and maintenance of your residence. So my personal opinion is, I think the equipment, I think the pool filter and everything can go in the shed. I don't think it's up for us to determine whether a building permit's required for any electric or plumbing or anything. I think we have to make a decision whether the pool equipment can go in the shed. That's just my opinion. It would also help my decision-making process if we knew exactly what the plantings were gonna be that Yadgard is proposing. So we can have a hard look at the new landscaping plan. We have to make a determination whether it's reasonable or not.
That would be helpful.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know how everybody else feels.
I agree.
Same.
Can I ask a question? Frank, I follow all that logic about the shed except for the definition of structure. In other words, if this equipment is a structure. If it is a structure, then it would need its own variance.
Well, I think therein lies the rub. I mean, I think we've got to do a little bit of research on that question.
I do too. I know. I've got some open things in my mind. It would be my suggestion that we make a motion to continue the public hearing to the March meeting and ask that Yadgard supply us with specifics as to what they're going to be planting and where.
And some specifics on the shed would be helpful
Yeah,
to me.
yeah. You want to know if there's a
Well, I want to
slab
know
or
if it's something, if something you can roll or drag, or if it's been there.
yeah. So
That'd be helpful to me,
that's
at least.
that's my thought on it, anyways. I don't know how everybody else feels.
Yeah.
The wheels are turning, Alex. I can see it.
I said you keep it open to the next
Well,
meeting.
what is not clear are the two things that you just mentioned. The
Shed and landscaping.
the shed and the landscaping. It's not, for us to make a decision where there's still, I would, in my mind, about a 40% uncertainty, we don't want to make a decision.
Yeah. Right. Well, I would make a motion that the public hearing be continued to the March meeting, and that Yadgard supply us with specificity with respect to the landscaping plantings they propose, as far as what type of plants they are, what size they're gonna be, what their expected growth is, so we can make a decision on whether we think is adequate screening.
I agree.
And I also think that we'll have to do some thinking about the shed issue, as far as whether equipment is a structure or not as proposed by Mr. Rapelier. That's my motion.
A second.
Katie seconds it.
Aye.
All in
Aye.
favor? Motion carries. See you next month,
Thanks for your time. When is that meeting?
March 17th.
Oh, St.
Oh, St.
Patrick's
Patty's
Day.
Day. Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Oh, geez, wait,
Can we
we're
have it at noon
Irish.
instead?
6:30 in the morning. and
Oh,
For anybody Irish, can we have that at noon?
Yeah. I'm Irish.
Didn't dawn upon me until you said something.
You know who said it to
I
me
was thinking
today? It
this-
was Ren Abrams out down in Dover.
Oh,
You know
yeah,
that's
yeah.
St. Patty's Day.
This man
Yeah,
doesn't call for drinking, I can't
He would
imagine.
say that, too.
Yeah, that's true.
What's that?
We could bring green beer to that one.
Maybe we should allow it at the meeting.
We should allow green beer.
We'll put it in a coffee cup, and we're having a cup of coffee.
Put in your
We traditionally go to the Arlington Grill.
Motion to adjourn.
second.
I second.
All in favor? Aye.
By Tate.